Hey first grade families and friends, it's Miss Burns here and we are on week 7, day 4's math lesson. We are still in 1G3, that's our geometry standard that's asking us to partition shapes into halves and quarters. Yesterday we were partitioning shapes into halves and quarters using iReady. Today we're going to use paper and pencil to do that because that's more than likely what you're going to see if you have a test, not during teleschool, but when you go back to school in 2nd grade. So here's our I can statement. I can use paper and pencil to partition shapes into 1/2 and 1/4 or 1/4, and I'm going to show you how I would do it as well as how you can use objects from around your house to get some practice in. So before we start partitioning shapes, let's review some of our important vocabulary. So we know that when we're partitioning, partition is just a fancy way of saying we're cutting something up into parts. That's why we see the word part. So we're taking a whole, that's the entire thing or all of what we have, and we are partitioning or cutting it into halves, which is 2 equal parts, or fourths or quarters, 4 equal parts. Now in 1st grade, we are only partitioning into halves and fourths or quarters. When you get to 2nd grade, you're going to start talking about thirds. That's when we break up a whole into 3 equal parts that we call thirds. So today I'm going to show you some shapes and we're going to partition them into halves and fourths or quarters using a pencil to draw that line. Instead of actually using scissors like we did on Monday, we're just drawing with a pencil. So here's our first problem. I'm going to walk you through this one and then I'm going to show you a problem that you can do on your own at home. So we're going to read it first and then start partitioning. It says Grant wants to share a square brownie with 3 of his friends. Show 3 ways Grant can partition, that means cut, the brownie. So first, I need to think about what's happening in this problem. One of our friends, Grant, has a square brownie, and here are some examples of the square brownie he has. And he wants to share it with 3 friends. We need to show the different ways that Grant can partition this brownie, so that way each friend gets an equal piece. Well, there's Grant, that's one friend. Then he has 3 friends, 1, 2, 3. So there are 4 friends who are going to be sharing this brownie, which means we need to partition this into 4 equal parts, which we call, what is it, friends? If you said fourths or quarters, you are correct. So we're going to partition this square brownie into fourths or quarters. Now I'm going to use a red marker to do it, and I'm going to show you several different ways that you can do this. Now I need to keep in mind that when we are partitioning into fourths and quarters, they need to be equal pieces. So I know that if I partition straight down from top to bottom, I've now partitioned one of the brownies in half. That's one way. And I can go across the center to now get 4 equal parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each of these are 1/4. 4 of these fourths make up our whole. Here's one way Grant could cut up his brownie so that Grant gets a piece and so do 1, 2, 3 of his friends. But that's not the only way. We need to come up with 2 other ways. Well, I know I can partition a square by going diagonally from side to side, from corner to corner. So I now have this brownie cut into halves. If I cut halves in half, then I'll get quarters. So now I'm going to go again diagonally from corner to corner. I now have 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. Each is a triangle. We have 4 triangular quarters, which are a part of our whole. Grant gets a piece and 1, 2, 3 of his friends get a piece. Now on this last one, I'm going to do it the wrong way first. Let's say you just are going to partition this in any way and we don't care if friends get equal pieces. 1, 2, 3 cuts, 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. But that wouldn't be fair. Nobody would want to get this little itty bitty baby piece in the corner. Somebody definitely wants this huge piece, but that wouldn't be fair. We need to make sure that we're partitioning in fourths, so that way everybody gets the same size piece. So what if we went and made strips? I'm going to cut or partition straight down the center so I have halves. And then if I cut each half in half, I will get quarters. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each one represents 1/4 of the whole or 1/4 of the whole. And now everybody has an equal share. Here are 3 different ways that Grant can partition his brownie so that he can share equally with himself and his 3 friends. Now these aren't the only 3 ways. There are other ways that you could do, which I hope that you're thinking about. Let's take a look at another example, and this is something that you can do at home, and I'm going to show you how you could do it. Here's another problem. Haley has a circular pizza that she wants to share with her friend. Show 3 ways Haley can partition the pizza. Well, there's Haley and then there's her one friend. So we need to partition this so there are 2 equal pieces. So we're going to partition it into what, friends? If you said halves, ding, 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 you are correct. Now I'll show you one way. I'm going to get my red marker to partition or cut this. I could cut straight down the middle from top to bottom. That's one way. So Haley could have this half of the whole and her friend can have the other half of the whole. But if we need to find 3 different ways, you would have to come up with your own way here. And then I want to show you how you can use objects from around the house to actually draw these shapes for you to partition. Now I drew these circles using the flat shapes that I have at home, right? I drew the squares using the squares that I have at home. You probably don't have those. But instead, you probably have a bottle of ketchup in the fridge, and the bottom of the ketchup, or the lid, is a circle. So you could put your ketchup bottle down flat on your paper, and you could just trace around it. Now your circle might not be perfect, but it's going to be pretty darn close enough that you're going to be able to partition it, okay? Now if you want to do some other shapes, so you would do these on your own, you could do rectangles. I got a half stick of butter. I can go around and trace one of the faces of this rectangular prism. Now I've got rectangles I can partition. And if you look at, we have 2 faces on either side of the sticks of butter, which are really awesome squares. Rectangular prisms have square faces, often on their sides, and that'll give you a nice square. So if you need to use some materials from around the house to help you out, that is perfectly fine. So friends, I want you to try grabbing some materials from around the house. I want you to trace around them. Get yourself some circles, some rectangles, some squares, and partition them in different ways, making sure that each partition is giving you an equal part. Then you're going to go ahead and click right below the video to find your Microsoft form so that you can complete that. Thank you so much, friends, and see you in the next one.